Alrighty. Welcome in, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you today for this very important session. And our topic is something that is rising across nearly every coaching conversation, comment thread, community check-in lately at Work It Daily, upskilling. So we called this session Level Up for a reason because, no matter where you're starting from, growth is possible. So whether you're trying to land a new role, prepare for a promotion, or just future-proof your career, upskilling is how you stay relevant and competitive in today's market. So just a reminder for everyone who is joining in, welcome. We have included the workbook and slide deck in our description for today's event. You can also find it in the comments. Our support manager will be including it there and monitoring any navigational questions throughout our session. All right. We also will save some time at the end to take a couple of questions if we have time. So feel free to pop those in the chat as we go throughout today's session. All right. So welcome in, everyone. My name's Christina. I'm the Director of Training and Coaching here at Work It Daily, and I'm really excited to welcome you all to this session. I've been in career coaching and training for over 5 years now with Work It Daily, and I can honestly say that helping professionals like you, grow, get unstuck, and feel confident in your next steps is what I love most about what we do here. And at Work It Daily, we're really deeply committed to making career support effective, personalized, and accessible to all of our members. And we operate on what we call the 3 C's. First and most importantly, coaching, providing group and one-on-one guidance to help you navigate challenges, make progress, reach your goals. We also have a wonderful community, which is a safe, supportive space where you can connect with others who get it. And we also have courses and events, step-by-step trainings to help you build the tools and confidence that you need. So by the end of today's session, you'll see how upskilling can help you grow your career today. Now let's jump in. All right, so before I get into the specifics and cover the agenda, I did just want to make a quick note that we encourage you all who are here today to stay till the end. We do have a special gift just for attendees, so stay tuned. All right, awesome. So here's a quick look at what we're covering today, just so you know exactly what to expect and also just what to walk away with, all right? So first and most importantly, we're going to define what upskilling is versus reskilling. Figuring out which one you need will break down the difference between these two strategies and help you figure out whether you need to level up your current career path, pivot to a new one, or do a mix of these things, do both. We then are going to get into how to choose the right skills to grow your own career. Instead of, chasing what's trendy, we're going to show you how to select skills that actually align with your long-term goals and give you an edge in your industry as well. All right. Then what we're going to do is take you through some free and low-cost ways to learn without going back to school and spending all this money. Upskilling doesn't mean getting a degree or spending thousands of dollars. We'll share some of these real tools and resources that will fit into your time and also fit into your budget, all right? Then what we're going to cover is how to showcase new skills so hiring managers actually notice these. Once you've learned something new, you need to make it visible, which is an important topic we'll cover today. We're going to walk you through where and how to brand those skills on your LinkedIn, your resume, and so much more. And then lastly, most importantly, we also have a bonus, a special offer just for attendees at the end. So stick around because we have a limited time offer to help you keep the momentum going after today's session and some other exciting announcements for Work It Daily. All right? Awesome. So the first thing I want to dive into is the fact that at Work It Daily, we help people solve career problems using a coaching framework that we call the GLOW method. So if you've worked with us before, you've probably seen this. And if you're new, this is how we break down career growth into something that you can actually go ahead and take action on. So to break this down, the G in the GLOW method stands for gain perspective. This is all about understanding what's really going on because, both in your career and in the job market, sometimes we feel stuck because we're not looking at things in the full picture from the bird's eye view. Then once we gain perspective, we then are going to illuminate the goal. That's what the L stands for. This is where we're going to help you define a specific direction, not just any goal, one that is actually aligned with your strengths, your interests, and where the market is headed going forward. That's how we keep skill building and have this sense of focus. Next, the O is for own your actions. So once you have this sense of clarity, it's time to take control, and we're going to help you create a plan that is not only realistic, but also fits your lifestyle, because consistency beats that intensity when it comes to growth. All right. Then lastly, and most importantly, is that the W stands for work it daily. This is the piece that most people tend to skip. So you have to build habits around your learning and also share and track your progress, so that way you're staying visible to the right people. And we'll introduce who those people are and who you want to stand out to when it comes to upskilling. And that's exactly how today's session is going to be structured, from gaining perspective on upskilling, reskilling, to building a strategy, and to also just executing consistently. So let's dive in. All right. So as I mentioned, we're going to start with gain perspective, and we want to talk about why this topic matters so much right now. Because if you're feeling uncertain about your next step and what you should be doing, you are not alone in this. So let's talk about upskilling and why this can feel so frustrating and confusing, even though we all know it's so important. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that skills are evolving faster than most professionals can keep up. Technology, especially AI, as we covered in last month's event, it is accelerating change across every single industry. That must-have skill sets just a couple years ago they're now being replaced with new tools, new technologies, and also just new approaches in general. It's not about just staying current, it's about staying ahead. All right. And that can feel really impossible when you're working a full-time job, or you're currently in job search mode all the time, or just trying to keep your head above the water. Now, platforms also teach content, not strategy. So sure, you can sign up for hundreds of free courses online, but without a strategy, it's like having puzzle pieces without the picture of the box. All right. That's why so many people start learning, then they stop. Maybe they'll continue again, and then they'll stop for a while, and they don't see how it fits into their bigger career plan. At Work It Daily, we hear all the time, I've taken courses. I still don't feel qualified. I still don't feel confident in my skills. And that is actually what we call a strategy gap, not a skills gap. AI is changing what companies value and also how they value it. It's not just about checking the boxes on a skills list anymore for those recruiters or employers. Instead, employers are actually looking for people who can adapt, people who can think critically, collaborate across functions, and use new tools with purpose and stay up to date on these things. So that means, your skill sets, your mindset, how you're talking about your learning, all of that matters just as much as what you've actually learned. All right. And here's the kicker. 70% of workers said that they want to grow, but don't know where to start. And that's a big group of people. This isn't just a personal issue, it's a widespread reality. All right. People are unmotivated, but the path forward isn't really that clear. That stat from LinkedIn Learning's 2024 report says a lot. People want to grow, but they're not really being shown a path as to how you can do that and how to execute that. So here's what we want to emphasize today. This isn't about working harder or doing, more just for the sake of it. It's about seeing the system really, really clearly. And this way you can play it smarter. We say this all the time at Work It Daily. You want to work smarter, not harder. You don't need to master every single tool or chase every single trend. You need a clear direction, a focused plan, and also just the confidence to talk about your growth in a way that gets you noticed. All right. Now, before we created today's session, we wanted to hear directly from professionals like you. So we posted 2 quick polls on our LinkedIn page last week to ask a simple question about, what you want to learn when it comes to your career growth. We had great responses, people across all different industries, experience levels, all of these people weighed in. And what we heard confirmed that, what we've been seeing in coaching conversations, resume, material reviews, community posts, people are actually very motivated to grow, but they're feeling overwhelmed by all the opinions and just overall unclear about where you should start. You might have gotten tips from family, from friends, from colleagues, but, it can be really tough to figure out, what's right and what you should be doing and putting together that game plan. So instead of guessing what would be helpful, we actually kept this open and let you tell us within these polls. And this directly helped to shape today's event, from the content to the overall structure. All right, so let's take a look. On the screen here, you can see the first poll that we put together. So this poll asks, what career development topics are you most interested in learning about right now? So the clear winner from this is career growth and upskilling, with a 52% of the vote. And that told us something really important. You're not just looking for a job, you're actually looking for a long-term strategy, a way to build your value, a way to stay competitive, and also just to make your career more sustainable over time. That's a mindset shift, and one that we actually love to see. Because when you think, beyond just landing the next role and start focusing on who you're becoming, everything else starts to align. You'll notice that, you're going to connect the dots there. Opportunities, your confidence, your momentum, that kind of intentional growth is what you want to focus on. And that's exactly why we made upskilling the focus for today's training. So up on the screen now, you're going to see our second poll that we posted, I believe a couple days after we initially shared that first poll. So we asked, when it comes to career growth and upskilling, what do you want the most support with right now? Just to take things a little bit, more specific and dig a bit deeper here. So the top answer by a wide margin was learning new tools and technology, with 50% of the vote. Now, that really confirmed what we've been hearing from our members and coaching clients. You're not struggling with motivation, you're struggling with that how aspect. What tools should I focus on? Where do I even start? How do I keep up when everything is changing so quickly? That kind of overwhelm can make even the most motivated professionals hit pause on things. That's why today's session is much more than just learning. It's actually about helping you cut through the noise, finding the right resources, the right tools, and building a plan that is actually doable. Because upskilling doesn't work unless it's actually sustainable. All right. Now, let's set the record straight. This session isn't about telling you to keep learning. We know you've heard that before. And yes, ongoing learning is important. But what really matters is what you learn, why you're learning it, and how this aligns with your goals. You're going to have shorter term goals, and you're also going to have longer term goals. So by the end of this training, you won't just walk away with a list of ideas. You'll walk away with a targeted, modern growth plan that's really built for you to help yourself compete in 2025 and beyond, and hold yourself accountable. We want you to stop spinning your wheels and start building a game plan, start building a future that fits in with what gives you that sense of career satisfaction. Okay. And upskilling is the best way to do that. All right. So we want today's session to feel like a roadmap, not a lecture. This is what we built for you. First, we're going to give you some clear examples of upskilling versus reskilling, defining both of those for you so you can figure out which one fits your situation. And we also want you guys to engage in the chat, when we're sharing about these aspects. If you relate, please feel free to chime in. We're then going to dive into how to identify the right tools and skills for your career path, because what works for someone else might not be what moves you forward, okay? And you'll also get a smarter approach to continuous learning, one that focuses on your strategy, not just, collecting certifications and taking things that route. We're also going to show you visible tactics so that, the work that you're doing actually shows up in your brand and your materials, resume, LinkedIn, and also in other conversations that you're having with recruiters and employers. All right. And most importantly, everything that we share will be realistic and actionable. No fluff, no overwhelming tasks lists, just the steps that you can start to take, this week and hold yourself accountable during this. All right. So I want to ask a couple of questions, and I'm going to number these actually 1 to 4. So if you resonate with the first one, put a 1 in the chat. You resonate with all 4, put a 1 through 4 in the chat. Because before we dive into the strategies, I want to see if any of this resonates with you. First off, have you ever felt like you should be upskilling, but you don't know where to start? Maybe you've heard the advice, keep learning, stay competitive, but no one actually tells you what to learn or how to know if this is the right thing for your own career path. Also, have you been overwhelmed by how many tools and courses are out there? One search for best tech skills to learn or career certifications in X industry can give you thousands and thousands of options. And it's just exhausting trying to decide. And that decision fatigue can stop you before you even begin. Next, have you ever built a learning plan and then just lost momentum a few weeks in? Maybe you started off really excited, really, determined, maybe even enrolled in a course or a program or training of some sort, but life just got busy, things came up, you felt unsure if it was maybe even the right course for you, or you just didn't feel like the progress was worth it. So it slipped off your radar. Or maybe you have been learning, but you're wondering why it's not translating into real opportunities. You've added skills, you've taken trainings, but you're not getting recruiter outreach, interviews, or internal recognition. If even one of these sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. I can already see in the chat, I'm seeing plenty of people sharing, all these 1 through 4, which is, it just shows that we're all in the same boat or have been at one point or another. All right. That's why we're here today. You don't need to overhaul your life or do more just for the sake of it. You just need a really strategic, focused plan that aligns with your goals and a way to make sure that the right people are actually seeing your growth. So here's the good news. You don't need to learn everything. You don't need to master every tool. And you don't need to stack all these certifications or trainings just to keep up. What you really need is that sense of clarity on what to learn, why it matters for your career goals, and also how to learn it in a way that actually sticks, where you can absorb this information and apply it in real time. This is what we're going to help you with today. All right. So trust me, we have a whole lot more in store than just tips and lists. We're going to give you this framework that you can use again and again to grow with purpose. All right. And feel free to take notes in your workbook and the slides throughout this session as well. All right. So I want to talk about next, why career growth feels a bit unclear. Let's be honest, if you've been feeling stuck in your career, it's probably not because you're lazy or unmotivated. Most professionals that we work with at Work It Daily, a lot of our members, they want to learn. They're really excited about learning, but they're stuck because their entire path to growth has just changed and no one taught them how to adapt to this new system. It's not just about working hard anymore. It's about being strategic. So let's look at the reality here. All right. First off, 83% of companies said that they're struggling to fill roles because of skills gaps. And that's from Gartner's 2024 report. So employers are hiring, but they're looking for very specific skills that, aren't always listed in the job description. Next, only 29% of professionals feel confident that they have the right skills for the future. And that is from LinkedIn Learning's 2024 data. That means, over 70% of the workforce is navigating their careers with some level of doubt on whether, they're even on the right track or if they're making the right move of their jobs. And get this, over 40% of workers say that they've taken courses but aren't sure if it's actually helped their careers or helped, further their careers. They're investing time, money, they're not seeing results. That can be really, really frustrating. And it's something that we want to help you avoid. So it's time to stop guessing, start building a really clear career plan that is focused on growth and will actually help move your career forward. So let's talk about why career growth feels so overwhelming right now, because it's not just in your head. There's a few big reasons behind the confusion and burnout that we're all seeing. First off, learning platforms give you access, but they don't really share the strategy you should be following. You can find a course on anything these days if you do a simple Google search, but no one's going to help you connect the dots between your goals, the skills gaps, and also your career path. You're just handed a library, but no map. And that's unfortunate, but it's how things go nowadays. Job postings require skills that aren't clearly defined. If you ever, go through a job description and think, okay, but what do they actually want? You're not alone. A lot of people think this when they're reading through those job postings. Roles are blending together, especially hybrid and cross-functional roles. And that makes it hard to know what to learn or what you should highlight or what you should focus on next, especially trying to target these types of roles. And then third, AI is automating a lot faster than many people are upskilling. It's not that people aren't trying to learn, it's that tech is moving that quickly. The expectations are shifting before most professionals even realize what's changed. So With that being said, if you feel behind or you're unsure on what to do next, it's not because you're unmotivated. It's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because the system has changed, unfortunately. But the good news is, with the right blueprint, you can take back control and move forward with a sense of clarity. So now that we've gained some perspective on why growth feels so unclear, it's time to shift into actual action. So the next phase is what we call illuminate the goal, because you need to start building skills, and you need to have a clear destination before you even go and develop those skill sets. So let me ask you this. What does success actually look like for you in your next chapter? It's easy to say, oh, I want to grow, but growth has to be defined in a really meaningful way. So what I want to do next is cover what we call the career growth formula. So let's talk about one of the most important concepts that we teach at Work It Daily. And this means that, career growth equals skill clarity plus proof plus visibility. If you feel like you've been doing all the right things, but, still not getting interviews, callbacks, promotions, etc., chances are one of these three pieces are missing. So if you don't know which skills to focus on, you might waste time learning things that don't actually move you forward. Also, if you don't have the actual proof, hiring managers won't trust that you're actually ready. And if you don't have the visibility, no one will see all the growth that you've been doing behind the scenes. All right. If you're missing even just one of these, then you actually do risk blending in, unfortunately. And that's just the hard truth. This is why so many qualified professionals keep getting passed over. So let's look at, what this actually looks like in action, just to give you some examples here to process these things. First off, with skill clarity, imagine that you are an executive assistant who wants to move into operations. Instead of randomly taking project management courses, you identify that Lean Six Sigma or process automation tools are directly tied to the roles that you want. That is what we call targeted learning. Now, for the proof here, let's say that you complete a course in something like Airtable, and then you use it to create a dashboard that saves your team some time each week. That's not just a certificate, it's real application that you can talk about in interviews, whether it's a formal interview or an informational interview. And also you can list that on your resume. And then for the visibility piece, you take that Airtable dashboard project, you add it to your LinkedIn project section or your project section of your resume, and you maybe write a short post about how you streamlined a workflow. You can add that into your content. Now, recruiters searching for Airtable or maybe other operational tools, they can actually find you, and hiring managers can see your value. If you're stating how you solve these challenges for companies, tools you've used, technology, skill sets that you use to do this, and you're writing content about it, these recruiters are going to be really impressed, especially if you start connecting with people, at your bucket list companies, and you get your content in their home feed. They're scrolling through LinkedIn and they come across it. They're going to see your sense of credibility, your sense of authority on the platform. And, when you put all three of these things together, that's when your growth becomes opportunity ready. And when people start to see your value, those employers, internal people, and, the right people that you want to get in front of. So let's get clear on two terms that are often used interchangeably, but mean very different things. These are upskilling and reskilling. So both of these, I wanted to clarify, are valid. Both are powerful. But knowing which one you need is the key to building the right plan. First off, upskilling, to define this, it means building deeper expertise within your current career path. You're not switching fields, you're just leveling up. Think of it like upgrading your current engine. And just to give you an example here, maybe there's an accountant who learned, advanced tax strategy or AI-driven forecasting tools. That is upskilling. And according to LinkedIn Workforce Report in 2024, upskillers actually earn 35% more than their peers who stay stagnant. All right, so that covers upskilling. Now, on the other hand, we have reskilling. So this means preparing for an entirely new direction. This is about transitioning into a different field by learning new core skills. You're switching lanes entirely here. So just to give you an example, maybe there's a teacher who retrains to become a UX designer. That is reskilling. All right. And here's the exciting part. 68% of reskillers actually can double their salary, according to the World Economic Forum. So whether you're looking to climb the ladder where you are or just build an entirely new path, both strategies can lead to incredible growth. And what matters is choosing one that actually aligns with your goals and what's important to your career. That's exactly what we're going to help you figure out next. All right, so let's get into some real world examples. Often the most successful career transitions aren't just about upskilling or reskilling. They involve, a combination of both of these things. So here's some real world examples to show how this can play out. All right. So first off, let's say there's a developer who's looking to become a product manager. You need to upskill in areas like business analysis or agile frameworks, skills that deepen your technical foundation. But you'd also like to reskill in maybe stakeholder management or customer research because you're stepping into a role that's more people and product focused. Now, let's give another example. Number 2 is, maybe moving from finance to fintech. In this case, you might upskill in advanced Excel modeling or financial automation. But to break into fintech specifically, you likely need to reskill in areas maybe like cybersecurity or API integrations, tools and tech unique to that specific space. And then to give you one more example, maybe healthcare to telehealth. A nurse or healthcare administrator is moving into telehealth. They might upskill in virtual care delivery or patient experience software. But they also need to reskill in areas like maybe digital communication, HIPAA compliance, and more of a remote setting or data privacy laws, etc. So the takeaway here is that many of the transitions that professionals are making in 2025 and beyond, these require both, deepening what you already know and also layering in something new to meet the demands of where the market is headed going forward. So as you think about your own goals today, ask yourself, where do I need to go deeper? Where do I need to branch out? And that's how you start building a targeted learning plan that fits into your own situation. All right. Now, understanding when to upskill, when to reskill, and when to combine both of these things, that can be a game changer for your career strategy. So here's how to break it down. First off, if your goal is to grow in your current skill, then you want to focus on upskilling. This might mean, becoming more advanced in tools that you already use, staying ahead of trends in your industry, expanding your subject matter expertise. You're building on what you already know, how to stay competitive and just move upward in your career. All right. Now, next, if your goal is to switch into a completely different career path, you want to focus on reskilling. That means, learning foundational skills for a new industry or job type. You may need to build an entirely different toolbox to meet the qualifications for a new field. It's a fresh start, but with the benefits of your experience. All right. And then lastly, if your goal is to lead in maybe a new function or transition into a hybrid or cross-functional role, then you want to do both of these things. You need to learn new skills to break into that space and refine higher level skills like strategy or communication. And, that combination is becoming a lot more common as industries overlap and just evolve in general. And the data backs this up. Professionals who combine both upskilling and reskilling are actually 42% more likely to land recession-proof jobs, according to McKinsey's 2024 study. That's because they're not just reacting to change, they're actually going ahead and anticipating it. They're able to pivot, they can go deep. This makes them more valuable in dynamic, fast-moving industries. So the bottom line here is to know which strategy to use, when to use it. That is what separates people who spin their wheels from those who actually make the real progress. Okay. So definitely something to take a note of. All right. So far we've talked about gaining perspective. We've talked about illuminating the goal. Now it's time for us to own our actions. All right. This is where we want to map out what you can do. And it's an area that a lot of people tend to get stuck, not because they're not capable, but because they don't have a clear, realistic plan that fits their life specifically. So today we're going to start mapping that out, not a generic 10-step plan, but an actual framework that you can adapt to based on your goals, your availability, and the skills that you actually need to start building. Whether you're upskilling, you're reskilling, you're doing both, we're going to help you create a sustainable routine for learning We're also going to help you identify some high ROI tools and platforms, and also just stay consistent, even when life gets busy, because real growth doesn't come from learning everything. It actually comes from taking consistent action in the right direction. All right. So from this point forward, I want you to shift from thinking about this session as information and actually start thinking of it as your game plan. So let's break this down together. All right. So now that you've seen the difference between upskilling and reskilling and how the most successful professionals often do both, it's time to get personal. This is one of the most important moments in your career development journey, choosing the right path for yourself. Because here's the thing, there's no one size fits all growth plan. That's just not a thing. What works for you, your coworker or your friend or someone on LinkedIn may be completely wrong for you. Clarity is something that always should come before strategy. And if you skip this step, you'll end up learning aimlessly, maybe investing in tools or courses that don't really pay off, or chasing goals that don't align with who you are or where you want to go in the future, where you want to land in 5 years. So ask yourself these questions and really reflect on your answers. First off, do I want to grow in this field or do I want to get out? If you're feeling bored, if you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling underutilized in your current industry, ask yourself whether you're looking to deepen your roots or just plant new ones, okay? For example, let's say that you're a project coordinator who really likes structure, but not the content of the projects. Maybe you're ready to reskill into operations or strategy roles in a different field and apply those transferable skills. Now, the next question I want to ask is, ask yourself, am I missing skills to hit the next level? Sometimes we're not stuck. We're just missing those 1 or 2 key skills, those hard skills that would make all of the difference here. So for example, let's say that you're a digital marketer. You're trying to move into a leadership role, but you've never managed a budget. Upskilling in financial tools and reporting could be that missing link. All right. So that's something that you can look into. Now, number 3, ask yourself, what energizes me and what actually drains me? This is about sustainability. So if you're forcing yourself to learn something just because it looks good on the job description, you're going to burn out. You don't want to feel that sense of stress and burnout. To give you an example, maybe you're a content writer who is phenomenal at writing, but feels drained by analytics. So you might want to upskill in storytelling strategy, not in data modeling. And on the flip side, if data is something that really excites you, maybe it's time to reskill into product marketing or UX. Okay. And here's one helpful tip that I want to share with you today, and one of our favorite tools at Work It Daily. We actually have our tool JT.ai, which incorporates our quizzes, our career decoder communication style quizzes, and we produce results. We have video results that we share with you and a whole analysis for our members as well, where we break down, how you can further, interpret and self-assess based on your results from those quizzes. So we can show you, where your strengths lie, some certain weaknesses, and speak to those. All right. So that way, once you take this resource, JT.ai, you could figure out if the skills that you're planning to learn align with how you're naturally wired. Do they support the kind of role or environment and challenges that match your career personality? Another thing that I wanted to mention that is helpful, and this is not a Work It Daily resource, it's an external resource, but the ONA Interest Profiler. If you are interested and you are looking at a couple of different areas that, you maybe have a passion in, a couple skills that you maybe want to develop but don't know much about, you can go through the ONA Interest Profiler and you can learn more about each of those careers, like tools that are required, technologies, job responsibilities, what a typical day looks like, education or, certifications or tools that you need to obtain or should obtain to get into that field. That's a great thing that you can look into as well. But if you also find yourself and you have your eye on a couple different areas, a couple different roles, but you don't know much about them, maybe you are ready for your next pivot. Maybe you're ready for a full-on career change. Then you need to start having informational interviews with people who are currently in those roles at your bucket list companies. All right. So maybe right now you're an executive assistant, but you want to move into project management work. you need to start speaking with the specialists, those project managers who currently work in those opportunities at your dream companies, because those are the people who were once in your shoes and can provide you with the right tools and right resources and say, oh yeah, totally, you should be taking or pursuing maybe this certification or going through this program, or this could be a helpful webinar that can allow you to learn more. You want to speak directly to the specialists themselves. All right. So that's one tip I want to share. All right. Bottom line here, when you align your learning with your energy, with your goals, with your strengths, that's when the growth becomes unstoppable. So don't rush this part. You want to own it and let it shape every action that you take from here. All right. Now, once you have defined your direction, it's time to build your plan, because here's the truth. Learning doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. A lot of professionals say, well, I will just upskill when I have time. Here's the thing. Time doesn't just appear. You need to set that aside. You need to make time for yourself. You need to put yourself first. So let's simplify what strategic learning and what that plan can look like. Something that is more realistic, not something that will overwhelm you. All right. So the first thing I wanted to say is to start by setting a monthly learning goal. All right. Instead of trying to do everything, focus on consistency with these 3 targets. First off, 1 certification. Pick something that aligns with your immediate career goal. It could be a short course. It could be a micro credential through maybe Coursera or Google or HubSpot, etc. The next thing you want to do are explore maybe 2 webinars. These are, lower commitment ways to stay sharp, to keep your skills relevant and recent, and hear directly from professionals in your field. Pick sessions that actually align with your interests and fill a gap in your knowledge. All right. And then lastly, you want to also set a goal of doing 1 project or maybe a skills challenge. Apply what you are actually learning. This could be a personal project. It could be something you offer to do at work if you're currently employed, or even maybe a skills-based volunteer opportunity. Application builds both the proof and the confidence aspects, okay? And then after you get that all sorted out, you then want to block off 2 to 3 hours per week to focus on learning. So put it in your calendar, literally write it down. If you have a planner, write it down. If you have a virtual calendar, add it in and treat it like a non-negotiable appointment. All right. This isn't extra. This is actually your own career development and you holding yourself accountable. So think of it, for example, like going to the gym. If you only go when you feel like it, it's not going to work. But if you schedule it, if you show up for yourself, you are going to start seeing results, even if it's just a couple hours per week. Okay. Just to give you an example, a client that we worked with earlier in the year when she was in HR, she blocked off Monday mornings for professional development. Over 3 months, she earned a couple certificates. She completed an industry-specific project and landed an internal promotion, all by being intentional with just a few focused hours per week. And this woman held herself accountable. This is how you build momentum without burning out. Consistency is what you want to focus on over intensity. Focus on your strategy over having that stress. And it is one of the best ways to actually take ownership, not only ownership, but also accountability of your growth starting today. All right. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest blockers that we hear from professionals. I want to grow, but I can't afford another degree. I don't want to pursue any other education. I don't want to take any pricey or expensive certifications or courses. All that I've seen online is pretty up. It's pretty up there when it comes to price. But the good news is you don't have to spend all that money. There are tons of trusted, accessible platforms that are offering, the free and low cost learning options that are recognized by employers and recruiters. All right. So let's walk through a few of our favorites and, you'll see them here on the slide, but I'll walk through a couple of those with you all today. First off is Coursera. Financial aid is available for Coursera as well. It offers university-backed and company-endorsed certifications in areas like business, data, tech, and a lot more. There's also LinkedIn Learning. I believe they actually do a free month right now. Especially useful if you want to upskill and show it right on your profile. You can directly get it added on once you complete that LinkedIn learning. We'll talk more about how that impacts visibility in just a bit. But there's also like Harvard Online, there's EDX, great for academic style courses from top institutions like MIT, Harvard. Many are free to audit with, optional paid certifications. But again, like I said, lots of free options. There's also Grow with Google, which offers professional certificates in tech, data, UX, and a lot more. These are short, very flexible, highly practical. A lot of these, I'd say, are also self-paced too, which is nice. So you can go in at your own time. Like we said, work it daily, spend a little bit of time each day. There's also HubSpot Academy, excellent for marketing, sales, CRM training. Their certifications are employer recognized, and I believe most of those are free. And then there's also Udemy, Khan Academy, all, free, high quality. You just need to match the course to your goals. So if you are all here today and you have explored any, free or, relatively inexpensive tools, feel free to throw those in the chat. We all are here. We're supportive of one another. We're here to help one another. And we'd love to hear, if you have been through any that are, free or inexpensive to help others who are listening in today. So feel free to pop those in the chat as well. But here's why this matters. LinkedIn actually found, that profiles with certifications actually get 6 times more views than those without. And this is straight from LinkedIn's 2023 data. That is not just a nice to have, it's actually a visibility advantage. So whether you're working with a tight budget or just want to try before you commit, these platforms can help you get started today without the cost or commitment of a full-on degree, which can be very expensive. All right. So just a couple of options that we wanted to speak on today. Now, the next thing I wanted to do is, first off, bust a myth really quickly. Learning doesn't just happen in a classroom or on a screen. Some of the most powerful upskilling happens when you actually roll up your sleeves and apply what you're learning in real time to actual projects and work, freelance work, etc. But some of the most, when it comes to upskilling, you want to think about how that actually applies and can contribute to your skill sets. This is especially important if you're someone who learns best by doing, if you are looking to build proof, not just knowledge. There's a couple of creative ways to build skills through experience. First off, you can volunteer via Catchafire or Volunteer Match. These platforms match skilled professionals with nonprofits in need. If you want experience in digital marketing or project management, UX or strategy, this is a great way to build a portfolio while, doing this type of work. You can also join LinkedIn audio events or skill building webinars. This is also an excellent choice to, like I said, keep your skills relevant, recent. These sessions are low pressure. There's lots of free options. And it's also just a great way to learn from others in your field. A bonus is also engaging in these events, sharing your opinions, your comments, your questions throughout. And this keeps things active and visible. Now, also, you can build on, low-code platforms like Webflow or Airtable if you're exploring tech or operations, areas like that. These tools can help you learn by building dashboards or sites or automations without needing to know how to actually code. It's a hands-on experience that you can actually go and show off. And then lastly, you can try reverse mentorship or teach a colleague maybe a new skill set. When you teach someone else, you actually reinforce your own knowledge, believe it or not. And mentoring builds that sense of leadership. It builds your communication skills. And that is something that employers love to see. All right. So here's the mindset shift that we want you to make. Learning does not equal coursework. Learning actually equals experience. All right. Courses give you knowledge. Projects give you that sense of credibility. And when you combine both of these things, you become a standout candidate who doesn't just know things, but you're actually doing these things as well. So now we have reached the final step of the GLOW method, which is most important, in our opinion, working it daily. This is the part where real growth happens, not from a one-time push, but also just from the constant effort that you need to put in over time. Whether you're upskilling, whether you're reskilling, or doing both of these things, progress doesn't come from doing everything in one weekend. It comes from showing up week after week, blocking your learning time, applying the new skills, and staying committed to your very own game plan. This way, you are focused on those shorter goals and reaching those milestones along the way, along with your larger goals. Maybe you're looking to land a pivot. Maybe you're looking to land a full-on career change. Maybe you just want to land that promotion. Everyone is going to have slightly different goals. So that is why you need to stay committed to your very own game plan. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent with these efforts. And that is how you are going to keep the momentum going. And it's also how you turn growth into opportunity. Okay. So what I want to talk about is one of the most overlooked steps in upskilling. This comes down to the proof. Too often, professionals do the work, when they take the course, they complete the project, but they never tell anyone about it. It's just, unspoken. And if that is not visible, it might as well not exist to recruiters, to hiring managers, or even to internal leaders. So with that being said, here's how you can make sure that your growth gets seen. First off, you need to update your resume and your LinkedIn profile as you go. You need to update both of these materials, not just your resume, not just LinkedIn. You need to make the updates to both. Don't just wait until you're finished with that certifications or with that project. Growth is something that is ongoing, and showing that you're in the process of learning is just as powerful as showing what you've already completed. All right. So just to give you an example, if you are going through a HubSpot or a Google certificate, you need to add that onto your materials. Okay. For your resume, add it into the additional experience or in the top fold. In place of the date, you can write in progress or like anticipated August of 2025. This way, recruiters and employers can see it's on your resume. Maybe it hasn't been completed yet, but you're writing your anticipated date. The same thing goes for LinkedIn as well. All right. This way, you're signaling that sense of momentum. All right. The thing that you want to really put a focus on is highlighting your results as well. Learning a new tool is great, but applying it is even better, as I mentioned. For example, if you are using, let's say, Excel modeling to improve a report or created a dashboard in Airtable, you need to note the outcome. For example, maybe you reduced manual reporting time by 3 hours per week. That says more than just completed Airtable course. All right. So as you can see, you want to get specific. If you can quantify, that's even more of a bonus. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is to create a project section. So this is your proof section, especially useful if you're changing industries or roles. Maybe you're making a shift. Like I said, maybe you're making a full-on career change. If you have any freelance work, include that. If you have any volunteer projects, add that onto your materials, or any personal builds. For example, if you're reskilling into UX, link to your portfolio at the top of your resume next to LinkedIn, add that link in. On your LinkedIn profile, add the link in as well. If you are exploring maybe operations, showcase that workflow optimization that you created in a tool like Notion or something similar. All right. This is going to be really important so you can highlight your projects even as you go and continue to upskill or reskill. All right. And don't forget, if it's not visible, it didn't happen. I want to put a lot of emphasis on that today, at least not to those recruiters, like I said. They're scanning profiles and resumes quickly, on average between 6 to 13 seconds per resume, per LinkedIn profile. And they're really not reading through every single thing. So if you capture their attention, you're going to increase your chances of having that recruiter read through and seeing your value and seeing the areas that you're reskilling in. Okay. Your job is to surface your growth in a way that makes it easy to find and also just hard to ignore. Your effort needs to be seen in order for these recruiters and internal leaders and others to see your value, what we call your unique value add, your UVA. Okay. Now, once you've built momentum in your learning, there's one more step that most professionals tend to skip, but it does make all of the difference in your visibility and also your credibility. So you want to share your growth publicly. And this is especially important, especially for those of you who tuned into our last public event on LinkedIn. This was all about AI and LinkedIn and the importance of that topic. So with the algorithm shift on LinkedIn, just to give you a quick recap, The best way to get noticed is to, one, keep your profile optimized and, let it reflect your personal brand. But two, and most importantly, there was an algorithm shift. And within the last couple of years, the best way that you can get noticed on LinkedIn, the world's number one networking platform right now, is to start producing content. No, you don't need to turn into a full-on content creator. But if you can start to create more content as it relates to your personal brand, you need to be intentional about letting others see your brand, and especially your progress if you're someone who's upskilling and reskilling, especially on the LinkedIn platform. This is where recruiters live. This is where your like-minded professionals live, industry-specific professionals that you're connected with. All right. So let's talk about how to do that in a way that feels natural and aligned with your professional brand. Posting takeaways from what you're learning. You don't need to wait until you finish a course or earn a certificate. Just sharing what you're learning and why it matters to make you more discoverable. And also, it positions you as someone who's proactive and self-driven. That's what you want to focus on. For example, maybe if you are someone who went through like a data analytics course on Google, you can say something like, oh, just wrapped up week 2 of Google's data analytics course. I love the hands-on SQL practice. Excited to explore or apply this in future marketing campaigns of some sort. That shows that you're sharing takeaways in terms of what you're learning. You're actually absorbing the information. And as you go and apply it, you can then share those other updates and what you've worked on and those projects and the success of it. Comment on, repost content from thought leaders as well. This keeps you visible. It shows that you're, staying up to date in your field. It also helps you build relationships, and it shows that you are plugged into these industry conversations as well. And that's something that people want to see, that you're active, you're on the platform, you're engaging. All right. And a pro tip is maybe just add your own insight or takeaway when you share something on LinkedIn. We always say, and this is something we talked about in last month's event, but you don't want to necessarily just repost without, sharing anything. You want to be very intentional and share your point of view. What is your take on that topic? What are your thoughts on it? In just a couple of sentences, you can do that. It's really quick and it's really easy. All right. Maybe talk about what you're building, not just what you're watching. People engage more with action than actual consumption. So instead of saying, well, I watched this webinar on leadership, you can try something like, oh, I was really inspired by today's webinar on leadership. I actually started mapping out a team onboarding plan to improve communication. And these are my thoughts about it. This signals that you took initiative, you're applying what you're learning, and that is exactly what hiring managers and recruiters are looking for. All right. And, posting about learning, it really could cause a 30% more recruiter engagement, according to some of our WIT internal data. So just sharing what you're working on makes you more discoverable. It makes you more memorable. And it also ultimately will make you more hireable, whether you're looking to make a promotion, reach a promotion, make a change, or land a new position. All right. So don't hide your progress. You want to own it. You want to share it, and you want to let this work for you. All right. And that is the best way that you can get your brand out there right now, especially if you are someone who is upskilling or reskilling in today's day and age. All right. So definitely something to think about, really important. And you want to make sure that you are showcasing what you're learning. All right. So to sum this up, I want to bring this all together. Your future relies on you, not your company, not the market, not luck. It relies on you. All right. The good news is that you don't need to go back to school. You don't need 100 certifications to collect, and you definitely don't need to wait for any permission. You are the one holding yourself accountable here, and you are the one who can make this change for yourself. You're the only one that can do that. So what you need is the right focus. You need the clarity to know where you're headed, the right support, so you don't have to figure it all out alone. The courage that it takes for that first step, even if it's small, that is something that you want to put your focus in right now. Because the truth is, your future success depends on the steps that you actually take today. And by showing up here, you've already taken that one step. And I want you all to give yourself a pat on the back for that. So let this be your starting point. Learn with purpose, show your progress, and ultimately, and most importantly, work it daily. And we are going to be right here to support you every step of the way. Like I said, we operate on the 3 C's: coaching, courses, and community. And we have that all available for you. All right. So, with that being said, and how this ties in nicely, is that we have a limited time offer. We are going to give you a special discount code so you can unlock our full Work It Daily premium coaching experience for just $69 a month. That is $10 off our regular $79 per month rate. This offer gives you everything that you need to stay supported, focused, and consistent with your career growth. So I quickly want to cover what is included, and then I will also take some questions. I know we only have a couple minutes left, but we'll take as many as we can. All right, so first off, what's included in the premium membership? We have 6 targeted career courses on job search, career development. We even have all of the tools I mentioned, like JTAI, our quizzes, all that information. We have events all throughout the week, Tuesday to Thursday. We have 5 events. And now we're actually going to be introducing a brand new event. So that will be 6. We also have access to our private career community of like-minded professionals. We have challenges going on. We let you post questions, share progress, share wins, hold yourself accountable with a group of like-minded professionals. It is fantastic. And we also have personalized resume, LinkedIn, and cover letter reviews. With the premium membership, you have an unlimited amount. You can continue to submit those until our coaches give you the good to go and everything's approved and ready to go. We even have templates that you can literally just fill out. We have sample resumes, cover letters that you can access in those courses as well. There's lots of tools and materials for you. And then also we have unlimited one-on-one personalized email coaching from our team of trained career coaches. That comes with premium as well. And also just templates, scripts, other job tools, resources, and also other exclusive features like our JT AI tool, our career decoder quiz, which is incorporated, and so on. Now, to claim your discount, just click on the link in the chat. We have our promo code, which is CoachMe10, the number 10 at checkout. Again, this is a limited time offer, and it is only available to those attending today's session. And we are also launching something new this week. We are now going to be hosting a brand new event series that is going to go hand in hand with this monthly LinkedIn event. Starting this Thursday, tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, premium members can actually join us for a special 3-week micro training series that dives deeper into today's topic. So each Thursday for the next 3 weeks, we are going to host an informational session similar to the layout of today's, focused on upskilling. We're going to take a deeper dive and help you build out your own personalized growth plan and answer questions along the way. This way, like I said, you're holding yourself accountable. You can check in with our coaches when we're doing this group coaching session. All right. And if you enjoyed this training and want to keep the momentum going, now is the perfect time to join premium. All right. You'll get access to those live sessions and the full coaching experience, both one-on-one if you're looking for that, and also group coaching with this membership. All right. And we've also got one more bonus for you. No matter what level of support you choose, if you join any of our paid memberships, standard or premium, you'll unlock access to our brand new resource. We actually put together an ultimate guide to free and discounted learning opportunities available exclusively inside our Work It Daily community. It's a PDF of a curated list of 20 plus free and discounted learning platforms, so you know where to upskill without wasting your time. We link directly to these platforms. We share what they are. And I believe I want to say like 3 pages long of lots of platforms and tools and technologies that you can explore. There's volunteer sites, there's creative experience builders to help you get that hands-on experience even while job searching. And you'll find the guide in the community as soon as you join if you purchase either a standard or premium membership. All right. So if you're ready to make your learning plan actionable, this is a great first step. All right. So I know that was a lot. We'll take a couple questions. I know we are just about at our time for today, but I'll take a couple of quick questions in the meantime. All right. So I have a question here from Raymond. Raymond asks, do you feel LinkedIn Learning carries any weight on your profile? Yeah, I think LinkedIn Learning can certainly carry some weight on your profile, especially if you, like I said, think about your gaps and skills and what you need to fill that gap. If you look at LinkedIn Learning, courses and webinars and videos that can, help you fill these skills gaps and, allow you to upskill in these areas, that will allow you to, speak on what you learn, go and apply it in real time. And like I said, think about projects that you can go ahead and pursue that align with what you learned in that LinkedIn Learning. So I think it definitely could help. And the good thing about LinkedIn Learning is that once you complete one of those, you can actually add it directly onto your profile. So once it's completed, it will give you the option to add it to your profile. And that way, when recruiters visit your page and come across you on LinkedIn, they can specifically see it, which is a really good look because, like I said, it shows you're keeping your skills relevant. It shows you're keeping your skills recent. So great question, Raymond. All right, let's see. What other questions do we have? We'll take a couple more. And I'm seeing some great comments here about platforms and other like certifications and courses and learnings that you've gone through to help further your skills. So I really appreciate everyone sharing those today. Super, super helpful. All right, let's see. All right. So I will take one more question for today. It looks like we are a little bit over our time, but question from Sean, is there a tool to help me determine my salary range based upon my skills? So we don't necessarily have like a specific tool that we recommend. Again, there's some websites like salary.com, Comparably, Glassdoor that you can explore. You want to do your research in order to get a better idea of what your range should be. We do have a course that specifically outlines, how to master salary negotiations, how to put together your range. But by exploring a couple of different websites and, looking on Glassdoor and seeing these salaries, then you can make a good judgment. Also aligning with, the skill sets that you've obtained. But we definitely have a great resource on that within our platform. And it's a really in-depth course that puts, we shine a lot of light on how to come up with that range, how large it should be and how that should align with your skill sets as well. So great question. All right, and we'll just take one more from Jeffrey. So can you talk about the different levels of paid memberships? Yes. So we have a standard membership and we also have a premium membership. And I can actually pull those up on the screen here. With our standard membership, you have everything that premium has access to except the one-on-one personalized coaching. So if you are someone that's looking to privately speak with our coaches, ask unlimited questions or submit materials, then I would recommend premium. But the only difference is we also are not including the new micro training in standard either. That is just a premium only event. All right. I hope that helps. All right. And this is just an idea of our different memberships. We have our free, we have premium and standard. And just to clarify, the coupon code for today, Coach Me 10, is just good for our premium membership. All right. And we've added links on all that information in the chat. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you to everyone who is here today. Again, this has been a great session. And before we wrap up, I just wanted to leave you with a few words of encouragement for today. Because if there's one thing we've learned from coaching thousands and thousands of professionals, it's that career growth isn't about being perfect. It's about actually being intentional. So wherever you're starting from today, remember this: you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be intentional with your efforts. Growth doesn't require that flawless plan. It requires commitment, consistency, and your willingness to try new things. Also, clarity comes from action, not overthinking. If you're feeling unsure or you're overwhelmed with things, take one small step. Like we said, consistency is key. Then another. And every bit forward moves and really works to build that momentum and confidence. Also, and most importantly for today, the best investment you can make is in yourself. whether it's 30 minutes a week or a couple hours or a single certification, the time and energy that you invest in your own development will always, always pay off in opportunities, in your confidence, and also your long-term growth. All right. So you showed up for yourself today, and that is what matters. Wherever you go from here, just know that we believe in your ability to figure it out, to grow through it, and to also make your next move and the best move yet. All right. So thank you to everyone for being here today. Great questions, great engagement, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, and bye-bye.